Hello everyone, welcome back to the Addicted Bookworm, where my addiction is all over the internet. On this channel I do book hauls, book reviews, both digital, physical, audiobooks, and so much more. Alright, so this is not my normal day that I upload videos in my current schedule, but I just noticed that May 3rd of this year marked 5 years that I've had my BookTube channel, and I am shocked. It has been 5 years. So I kind of want to talk a little bit in a little bit more detail about why I chose to do a BookTube channel. I'm probably going to repeat the story every year for quite some time. But I started my BookTube channel May 3rd of 2020, and this was when we were in the pandemic. We had, articles coming out about, about funeral homes being overwhelmed, and I kind of made a statement. It says, well, I guess they're going to be busy for quite some time. It was not a good thing to say, but I said it. I guess that's just how I felt at the time. I just had never been through a pandemic before, and I had been so glad that my mother had not been around to see it, because, she would have had her comments and stuff. I don't know what the comments would have been, but she would have had her comments. So, I was in grief, and it was a very, very dark place I was in. And I was like, all I was doing was going through the movements. And I had also gotten really ticked off with my job, because when I got hired on at Five Guys, I was promised bereavement leave. 5 days. 5 days I would get off, that I wouldn't have to come into work. And I discovered how much of a lie that was. Now, I'm pretty sure that the woman who hired me believed it herself, but she told me I would get 5 days. And I fought. And every time I would apply for my 5 days bereavement, I was always denied it. Oh, we need you in here to do it. You need. I'm like, I just lost my mother. They just did not care. I wasn't going to a funeral. They didn't care. They didn't care there was a pandemic. They didn't care people were dying left, right, and center. They wanted me to come in and make money. So I literally was like, either I quit my job, or I fight tooth and nail for this leave I had been promised. I later on would surprise them 2 years later by demanding it, and literally I got it, but I didn't say what it was for. And then like 3 days later, this district manager says, oh, I need your sister to come in, and I told her where she could go. But anyways, I had been like that for months, for I think 2 months. And I was sitting there, and I think I was doing something, and I said to myself, I need to, my mother's been gone for 2 months, and she would not want me to be like this. And I was bound to determine I was not going to turn my aunt, eating German chocolate cakes and ho-hos and ding-dongs and all that stuff, and getting round and stuff. It's like, no. I made a vow on my grandmother's deathbed I was not going to be obese, eating German chocolate cakes and ho-hos, ding-dongs, and wiggy-woggies, or what you want to call it. So I said to myself, I need to find something that makes me happy. I need to find something that brings some positivity, some light into this very dark world I'm in, which is grief. I need to be focusing on something that brings me complete and absolute joy. And I said to myself, I know what brings me joy. Books. Books bring me joy. And I was like, I should buy books. Not too many, a couple. I think I bought like 5 books or something like that. And I went on Amazon. I don't know if I had just gotten paid or I had some money left over. And I ordered some Nancy Drew books, because Nancy Drew was the first detective that my mother introduced me to. And I felt like that she would be happy if she knew I was continuing to read Nancy Drew. So I got a couple of the yellow spine Nancy Drews, which I knew weren't the actual ones. They were like the edited, condensed ones. And I think I got something else that was Nancy Drew on it. And when it arrived, yes, I did get the dopamine hit. I opened it up and I looked at these beautiful, beautiful books that had a world in which Nancy, despite not having a mother, being raised by her father and her housekeeper, was this brave, courageous person. And I started reading it, and I said to myself, I have nothing to do. It was a pandemic. Everybody was either stuck at home or something like that. I should do a channel where I talk about books, because if it makes me happy and not going down the same path my aunt went down with her German chocolate cakes and her ho-hos, ding-dongs, and wigwogs, I don't want to pronounce it. Hey, this could be good therapy for me. This could, get my mind off of what has happened and do something constructive, do something that takes me out of that headspace that happens when you lose a loved one. And I also had seen, like, I'm not the only one in this boat. I'm not the only one on this cruise ship of blackness. There's people that are like losing their loved ones. They're losing their wives and their husbands and their mothers and all that. And it did not give me comfort, but it really helped me prioritize what was important. And as I started reading Nancy Drew and her adventures, and I started reading some of the older ones, I said to myself, there's other books out there besides Nancy Drew. So I need to get those books. And now, 5 years later, I have my little book collection, and I love it. And I remember moving over here and found out there was a supermarket, and I discovered they had a pretty good book collection. And I got my first Stephen King novel, which was If It Bleeds. And I realized that there's people out there with worse luck than me, worse lives than me, but they make it work and they do what they have to do. And I will always be grateful for that. I will always be grateful for BookTube, sometimes Book Talk. And just the fact is, I didn't give up my love for reading because my mother couldn't understand why I liked to read like I did. And books really helped me to get out of that headspace, think about what was important, and really prioritize what I have to do. So as long as there's libraries and free ebooks and things like that, I will always be on BookTube. Thank you guys so much for subscribing to my channel. I really do appreciate it. And I will see you guys next time.